Hello, this is Manal, and I am so excited that we will be talking about anger. Anger is such a natural human expression, but there is so much judgment about anger because it does not feel good to be angry. Either when you are feeling angry or when somebody else is expressing anger towards you. But what if we could use anger to our advantage? What if we could start to see the power of anger in allowing us to understand ourselves, life, and the universe, and recognize its ability to orient us towards our greatest and deepest desires? This is what we're going to explore today. Let's go. Welcome to Mattain, Attain the life that you desire. I am Manal, and I'm so excited. This month we are exploring everything to do with emotions. This is episode 16, using anger to your advantage. This month we're talking about emotions. Last week we talked about understanding your emotion. Next week we're going to be talking about loneliness. And the final week of this month we are going to be talking about manifestation of your dreams. Last month we were exploring all things physical. This month all things emotional, and it's so fun to grow and expand. Keep sending your comments, keep watching the podcast, keep following me everywhere, and let's keep growing together. Thank you so much for being here. So before we get started, anger can be a symptom of anxiety. So if you feel anxiety in any way, and anxiety is a fear of or the repression of fears, which anger is also, as you explore today, we're going to see that. So go to my website, www.mattain.me/anxiety, and download my mini course, 10 Steps to Letting Go of Anxiety. Anxiety, anger, all of our emotions are enmeshed, and what we're trying to do is disentangle, break them, so you can be free of feelings that no longer serve you and calibrate to feelings that feel good. So let's get started. Anger. Anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. Anger is part and expression of the emotional body. And last week we went and talked in detail about understanding and appreciating and amplifying the value of your emotional body. And anger is one that we all feel. It's a very common feeling. But it's not the feeling, the emotional feeling of anger that's the problem. It's the physical reaction to anger that's the problem. It's that feeling of wanting to throw something, maybe kick the door, punch the wall, yell at the world, maybe take it out on those around you. It's not the emotion of anger, it's the thoughts, the obsessive thoughts that go with the anger, the feeling of being victim, of being out of control, of feeling unhappy. It's the physical reaction, the stress, the tension, the pressure that one feels. So the first thing that I want to really bring to our collective awareness, it's not the emotion, it's the saturation of physical reaction, of mental thoughts, of egoic misbeliefs that the anger elicits from you. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. The anger is the emotion. It's a feeling. And the next time you feel anger, or if you can invite it now as an observer without overindulging, you can see that the anger is just a feeling. The problem with anger is the physical reaction. And that's what anger management is when I feel that anger, do I yell? Do I scream? Do I kick? Do I fight? Do I run? What is my mind doing and saying? What is it saying about and what are my beliefs? What are the beliefs that are coming up? Anger is a secondary symptom, usually, to something, to a fear, to a loss, to a sadness. So another element with anger, it's not the emotion of anger that's bad, quote unquote. It's the fact that we have repressed the root cause of the anger, and now we're focusing on a resistance on resistance on resistance. It's the layered impact and reaction of something that is being suppressed. So we talked last week about the things that we usually do with emotions. PAINS is the acronym I use. We either project them, we amplify, we intellectualize, we negate, or we suppress. So anger, as we talk about as being a secondary emotion, we're actually projecting anger because we're suppressing a fear. We're amplifying, our anger is amplified because there's a suppressed fear. We might intellectualize and our mind goes crazy because we're suppressing a loss or a sadness. We might be negating our anger, and there's a negated sadness and loss. You get the storyline. Is that the reason anger feels even worse is that it's layered on top of other negative emotions. So the anger is a coping mechanism for a lot of other feelings. And so then you might be reacting to something happening at the checkout counter, at the grocery store, but it's actually a suppression of other fears that is actually getting you to react in that way. So the anger is not a problem. Anger is not a problem. The problem with anger is all of the things that it represents that we're not conscious of. Some people use anger and have totally suppressed their sadness, totally turned off their sadness. And some people have totally turned off their anger and they're depressed. And again, that's unhealthy because you're avoiding your anger, so you're falling into depression, or you're avoiding your sadness and your anger is just totally amplified. So does that feel good? Does that sound like it's serving you? Absolutely not. So the antidote is getting to the root cause of your anger. Your root cause of your anger. So we're going to do that in the Mattain 5-step way. First is awareness. Awareness. Step 1 is awareness. We talked about this last week. We talked about it a lot of the weeks. Awareness. Let's start to become aware of your anger. So when your emotional body starts to speak out and your anger starts to speak out and your mind starts, just watch how the mind jumps. The anger and then the mind in the stories, perhaps being a victim, perhaps feeling out of control, perhaps feeling unworthy. But watch what the mind is doing. So, and then just say, oh, wait a second. I just want to see my emotion, anger. I just want to feel the anger. So then maybe you could also look at the physical body and see what are the physical sensations to anger. Tight fists, tight jaw, flushed face, tense body. Start to watch with the physical desires and reactions. So step 1, awareness. If you can start to become aware and start to break down your reaction to and your anger in your 4 bodies from a place of compassion and understanding and self-care and self-love, that's the first step to detangling from anger and starting to use anger to your advantage. So first step 1 is just awareness. Awareness. And if you can pull yourself away from the situation and just sort of sit with it. You might not be able to do it during, maybe after, maybe obviously not before, but just start to sit with it and say, ooh, it's interesting. My heart is beating faster. Wow, my jaw's become really tight. Ooh, there's tension along in my eyes. Wow, my mind is just racing. And the calm that I had a few seconds ago, it's gone. Maybe a few deep breaths will allow me to calibrate. Now the power is of recognizing what the root cause of your anger is. The root cause isn't the dog or your relationship, your child, the job, the grade you got, something that happened in traffic, something a stranger did. The root cause is something bigger than that. And the root cause of anger usually comes down, we talked about this when we talked about anxiety in our first month of podcast. There's 3 major fears that are associated with the unconditional 3. And the unconditional 3 is our desire for worthiness and freedom and happiness. But there's 3 core reasons that our anger exists. One is the fear of death, the fear of mortality. And this is expressed as fear of being out of control, the fear of not getting everything done, the fear of our bodies failing, the fear of illness. It's the fear of being alone. So our anger, if we could start to recognize that I'm angry because this incident occurred, and this incident was actually feeling out of control. And I felt like I was not free. And I felt that whoever did this to me elicited these feelings. And actually, the root of that feeling of not being in control, or feeling of not being able to get everything done, or the feeling of my body failing on me, the feeling of being alone, that they did this and I feel all alone, it's actually the fear of death. Every life we do, somebody raises something, we can't talk about the fear of death. It's just so primal because it's something we don't control. Life and death, we don't control, but it's an absolute beautiful part of the human journey. But we don't recognize that fear. Incidents will amplify the feeling of anger because we're suppressing that fear, that fear of death. Another fear that we have is the fear of failure. And it can be expressed in many ways. A fear of success, self-sabotage can be in there, fear of not being good enough, fear of being unworthy, fear of being bad, fear of being wrong. Being a perfectionist falls into the fear of failure. So again, somebody cuts you off in traffic. Makes me angry. I feel like they didn't see that I wasn't good enough, being disrespected, feeling of being unworthy. So it's really interesting that that person cutting you off elicits these beliefs that triggers a fear of failure, of being imperfect, of being not good enough, being unworthy. And then the final fear, the fear of not being lovable. This is expressed of fear of not being happy, never being happy, the fear of not being loved, the fear of not finding love, the fear of being alone, and the fear of being abandoned. It's another primal fear that I see over and over and over again because we're human. And somebody excluding you might make you feel anger. And actually, it's that fear of not finding love, not being lovable, being all alone, being abandoned. Very powerful. So if you can start to look at your anger and start to recognize the unconscious fears that are associated with this anger, then you've been truly empowered. Because our life journey is about calibrating to worthiness, to freedom, and to happiness. And the anger and the incident of the anger is guiding you towards fears that have been suppressed, which are resisting the truth of your worthiness and your freedom, the beauty of you and love and happiness and joy. So every incident of anger, when we can break it down and see the reactions, it's not the anger, the emotion, it's the physical reaction, it's the mental engagement, it's the trigger of the egoic misbeliefs that make anger feel so bad. But when we start to recognize that anger, like every other emotion, is a gift, and I can use my anger to start to understand the physical symptoms, the emotional, the mental engagement, the egoic misbeliefs, and use it to calibrate back to the truth of the beauty of who I am, anger becomes an empowering tool. An absolutely empowering tool. So who's ready to recognize that anger is resistance on resistance on resistance, and anger is a symptom of suppressed fears, sadness, loss. And when you are willing to look at all of the layers and break it down by body, you can reorient yourself to the truth of who you are. Attain the life that you desire. All of these philosophies and elements are described in my flagship course, Attain the Life That You Desire. So if you're interested in digging in deep and really understanding yourself and your emotions and the physical body, the mental body, and the egoic body, it's a perfect time for you to go to my website and join and be part of this revolution of reorienting to the truth and the beauty of who you are. Go and join my Attain the Life That You Desire flagship course. So appreciative of you being here and so excited to watch you use your anger to align with your beauty, with your truth, with your worthiness, with your freedom, and your love. Please continue sending comments and feedback. I hope you enjoyed today's exploration of anger. Next week we will be talking about loneliness. Please follow me, YouTube, Insight Timer, Instagram. Go to my website, sign up for my newsletters, sign up for the anxiety course, mini course. Join Attain the Life That You Desire flagship course, www.Mattain.me. So excited that you're here. So appreciative of you. My love, always.